money out of the bank and you can't buy anything with it because the prices have gone up so much, it's the same impact. But it's not just prices for goods that are going to go up. Prices for money are going to go up. Ultimately, interest rates are going to head skyward as well. Long-term interest rates are going to take off. And if people think the housing market is bad now, wait till you can't even get a loan to buy a house. Wait till it's an all-cash market. Because interest rates are so high, you can only buy a house if you have cash. How low are prices going to have to be when you have to pay 100%? And forget about a down payment. I mean, you have to buy the house. So we're going to see double-digit interest rates, double-digit inflation, double-digit unemployment. Unemployment is going to keep going worse. We're never going to get meaningful job growth unless the government gets out of the way, unless the economy restructures. If they keep trying to reflate this bubble, we're going to keep losing jobs. And the real unemployment rate is about 17.5% when you count the people who are settling for part-time work or who are discouraged and giving up. I mean, that figure is going to be well north of 20% by the time Barack Obama is up for re-election. And the problem is, the Fed is going to have, it's the last chance to do the right thing. Sometime in the next year or two, the Fed is going to have a chance to finally do what it hasn't done, and that is defend the dollar and substantially increase interest rates. And it's going to have to do it despite the fact that we're still in a deep recession, that unemployment is still high, and housing, it's going to have to do it anyway. And it's going to have to raise interest rates extremely high. And when they do that, right, the housing market will plunge again, and every single financial institution that was bailed out will fail again. And the government has to let them fail the next time. They have to not bail them out a second time. They have to let them fail and let them go bankrupt. Now, I don't think they're going to do that. I mean, I don't think there's any honesty in Washington at all for that. I think that just to buy one more election cycle, they will just, make a deal with the devil. And in effect, that's what they're doing. So if they put the pressure on the Fed, they've already got, Chris Dodd has already got this new plan he announced yesterday, to strip the Fed of its powers, which I think is kind of ridiculous because they're stripping the Fed of powers it never even had in the first place. It usurped these powers. And so rather than admonishing the Fed, they're going to take these powers that never existed and then formally give them to new federal agencies that will abuse these powers even more than the Fed did. And so the economy is going to come under much more trouble when you take these powers and give them to more politically accountable organizations than the Fed. So I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're going to keep on reaching for Bernanke's printing press. They're going to continue to pursue, as David said, the standard economic theory, which hopefully will be completely discredited and bankrupted and never taught again as a result of what's going to happen to the American economy. I mean, maybe our misery can at least, help out some other countries so they don't have to follow us down this pathway. But they will keep trying to get government spending. They keep looking at, that formula, C plus I plus G, as if government spending is the same thing as investment spending, as if companies stop spending and the government just spent the difference. It's all the same. As long as it's in the GDP, all they can do is print money. I mean, it doesn't mean anything if they do that. So they're going to keep thinking that we need to spend, and so give consumers money to spend, and they don't understand that that's why we're in trouble. They will keep stimulating this economy until it dies of an overdose of stimulus. Because they don't understand, Barack Obama doesn't understand, and George Bush doesn't understand, that the stimulus is the problem. And the more they stimulate the economy, the worse the economy gets. Because the stimulus is toxic. The stimulus is why the economy is sick. Now, sure, when they stimulate it initially, the symptoms appear to be arrested for a little bit because you get a little bit of a phony high. Just like, if you're a football player and you're injured and then, you have a bad leg and so you shoot it up with some of this morphine or something and now you can play because you don't feel it. And you don't think you're doing any damage, but meanwhile you're doing a lot of damage. You just don't know because of the drug. That's what's going on. You put the stimulus into the economy and then you feel better because people take the borrowed money and go out and spend it. And you pretend that spending is real GDP growth when it's not. And then when the stimulus wears off and you're left with a bigger mess, right? We're in a much bigger hole today than we were when Barack Obama inherited the problem. So I think, to draw the comparison to the 30s, George Bush was this generation's Herbert Hoover, and unfortunately Barack Obama is Roosevelt. And rather than creating a Great Depression, this time we can end up creating the greatest depression. It will be an inflationary depression, maybe even a hyperinflationary depression. And the problem is that the economy that Roosevelt inherited was fundamentally sounder than the one we have today. We had a much higher savings rate, we were much more industrious, so we didn't have all this debt, we had a tiny federal government. Roosevelt expanded the government, but it was tiny. I mean, nobody really paid any taxes back then anyway. I mean, when Roosevelt came in, I mean, no one paid income taxes. The income tax came in 1913, but only the super rich paid it. And then it was like 1%, 2%. I mean, it was nothing. There were no payroll taxes, there were no Social Security taxes. So the average American worker, he kept everything here. He kept 100%. The only taxes he had were some duties, on some imported products. Other than that, it was pretty much tax-free. So when Roosevelt came in and added some stuff, I mean, it was tiny. It was a bad precedent that he set, and the things that he did were enough to screw up the economy that, it prevented the free market from correcting the depression quickly. But today, it's a different story. We're already taxed. We have a heavy government burden on the average American. The government is enormous. We're now talking about, $3 trillion plus a budget. We're borrowing like crazy. We're the world's biggest debtor nation. We have no savings. And we have this phony economy that's built on a service sector and consumer spending, which can't exist because it only exists as long as the world lends us the money to buy stuff and ships us the stuff to buy. Because without the world producing, we have nothing to buy, and without the world lending, we have nothing to spend. Anyway, I guess I'm out of time for my 15 minutes.